everybody. It is now week 2 here at our Slipping Into Spring Knitalong. And I just want to welcome some of our new participants who have signed up this week and got their project started. We have, let's see, Lana, Beth, and Sue. So welcome to the Knitalong. I hope you have as much fun as we're all having on our projects, and I'll just go over the projects quickly if you're just tuning in for the first time. So we have 2 choices. Project number 1 is called Pressed Flower Shawl, and it is knit top down, and this is utilizing mosaic knitting as the technique for both shawls. Mosaic knitting is a form of slip stitch knitting where you're using one color per row, but it gives the illusion of Fair Isle or stranded color work, without the messy tangles and without the dense fabric that Fair Isle can create. Project number 2 is Artus, and it is designed by Moonstruck Knits. I'll put the links in the comments below if you want more pattern information. And some of you have chosen both projects, which is awesome, and some have chosen one or the other for various reasons. They are on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of difficulty. I would say probably in the medium level. They're just using knits and purl stitches, make one right, make one left as the increases, but you do have to follow a chart for some of the pattern sections and have your wits about you or mistakes will happen. So the yarns that are featured for the Knitalong, we've had 3 choices, equally popular. Milo, which is merino with linen, and it is a sport weight. I'll just give you the percentage of merino so you can imagine how soft it is. 65 merino, 35 linen, 380 yards. These are semi-tonal colors, hand dyed by Manos, and we have all sorts of medium to light tones which give enough contrast when you're doing mosaic knitting. The project that I'm doing for the shop has 5 colors. The artist calls for 5 colors, so I'm using 5 colors in the Milo, and at the moment I've just introduced color number 4. So it's really exciting as you work up your project to see the effect of the new color entering, the schoolyard of the previous colors. So that keeps me awake at night. I have to get to the next color. And then the yarn choice number 2, which some of you have chosen for the Pressed Flowers shawl, is Allegria. It is hand dyed, 75% superwash merino, very bouncy, 25% nylon for strength and durability, and it has, in 100 grams, 445 yards. So Pressed Flowers uses 2 skeins, 100 grams for the main color, 1 skein for the contrast color in any of the choices. Artists will use 2 skeins of the main color and 1 skein of 4 other colors, 100 grams. And then yarn choice number 3 is quite vibrant colors, and it's called Echo Tweed DK. It has 50% organic wool, 25% organic alpaca, and 25% viscose for the little the little tweed specks in it. So we had quite a few colors. Now we're just down to the royal purple, this gorgeous cardinal red, and beautiful mustard gold. So I'll have some pictures to post in the event page today of some of the progress in all 3 different yarns and the 2 different patterns. So please feel free to look at those and post your own progress pics. The more the merrier. So as you know, everyone who's signed up gets a sign-up ballot in the grand prize draw, and then each week we're doing an incentive trivia question which will enable 1 more ballot in the draw bucket. And congratulations to week 1 incentive ballot winner. It was Anne B. She got the correct answer. A lot of you did get the correct answer. We're just randomly picking somebody to put the name on the ballot to keep it fair. Over here I have the grand prize draw basket. It's all wrapped up with goodies inside, and just to give you a sneak peek, it is a linen cotton blend, and this will be a project to knit for spring and summer. So there is a pattern included and an adult size amount of yarn to go with it. And there might be some more goodies in there. I haven't dug into it too carefully. So that draw will happen at the end of our knit along. It's a 4-week knit along, and then we do the live draw prize. So what else can I tell you? Oh, the correct answer to last week's trivia question was Barbara Walker. She is the knitting aficionado who termed the coin mosaic knitting in the 1960s. She didn't discover the technique, but she sort of brought it to the surface of the knitting world and gave it a name. It never really had a name or a category. It was just known as slip stitch knitting or a type of colorwork knitting. So thank you, Barbara, for getting us so revved up about mosaic knitting. So I'm going to show you my progress on the Artus Shawl, and then we also have some progress to show you on one of our participants' pressed flowers shawl. Hope everybody is enjoying their knitting so far, and if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments below, or if you just want to say hi and let us know where you are and what you're up to. So, starting at the top here, this was knit with a garter stitch tab, which seamlessly transitions into the garter stitch edging, and that's going to stay throughout the shawl. There are make one increases at the beginning and end of the right side rows, and also on either side of the center spine. The top section has you working through a slip stitch pattern. It's called a waffle stitch. So that is color 1, and then little tiny bars of 1-in-1 stranded color work. 1, 2, 3. Once you finish the third one, you are ready to go on a really exciting adventure into the geometric mosaic knitting. So you can see here I've just started and I've continued into now introducing the fourth color. It's a sandstone color. It'll be a little bit hard to see, but by next week I'll have more on the needles to show you. So this is all slip stitch, and of course you want to see the other side. Don't be alarmed. And it also creates a nice woven pattern on the inside of the shawl. I have quite a few ends to sew in. I'll be going over that probably in week 3 or 4, the finishing and the blocking. And I have put it on one of the goddess cords, which is a flexible stitch holder, just so I can spread it out and make sure that my tension is not too tight. Hi Beth. Beth is loving the pattern, excited to get to the mosaic. I know, it is actually, it's almost like you cannot put it down because you want to see what's going to happen at this point. It's almost like 2 shawl patterns in one, and this border takes up quite a large percentage of the pattern. So once you get into it, then you just get lost in the whole rhythm of the stitches. And that's what we love about knitting. It takes us away from our day-to-day life. Hi Linda. Linda's getting close to the mosaic too. Wonderful. So now I will show you a close-up of progress on our pressed flowers shawl, which also is utilizing the mosaic knitting technique, but in a whole different format. So this is one of our participants. I showed it last week, and she had just started and finished maybe the first repeat there. They are pansy-like flowers, and she's using Allegria in a semi-solid, I think the color is called Reindeer for the mane, and then a multicolor variegated in beautiful shades of greens, plums, lime, and a soft buttery yellow. So you can see how far she has progressed in a week. Her tension is great. It has lots of stretch, and this is the reverse side, which gives a pebbly woven effect. So the only difference in getting started with this shawl was the designer is using a provisional cast on. This is scrap yarn, which will be removed at the very end, and there'll be a nice finished tab here, which will give us a seamless effect. This one also has a center spine increases, and the outside beginning and end of the row increases. It's using a slip stitch for the border, which gives it lots of stretch. Beautiful, just beautiful. So now I'm going to go over the two patterns to give you some helpful tips as you get into the depth of it. Hi Christine, good afternoon. Hi Anne, congratulations again on your incentive win. We'll have another trivia question at the end of this video, so stay tuned. Okay, so I'm going to have to show you the charts up close so that you will be able to follow along. Let's start with Artus. So pretty much everything is written out for you very clearly, page 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's when everything changes. Tip number 1, when you're getting into the mosaic border, be sure that you're using a long circular needle, so 32 inches minimum, 40 inches would be great. You want to be able to stretch the stitches out as you're slipping them. The Artus Shawl is slipping over 4 or 5 stitches at a time, which is a lot, and if your circular needle doesn't let you stretch it out, it's all clumped together, you might end up with puckering. A little bit of puckering is normal, and you'll notice in the pattern, one of the photographs of the shawl as it's a work in progress will show a little bit of that puckering, and that just blocks out beautifully at the end. But if you cannot stretch your stitches out and give it a little bit of breathing room as you slip across a large number of stitches, then you're going to get into trouble, and it's going to start to pull in, and your shawl, instead of getting wider and wider, will start to come in a little bit. So that's a very important tip, and that is why I did put all my stitches at this point onto one of the cords, which acts as a stitch holder. I just wanted to make sure that I had enough stretch and everything will block out. So I'm being very diligent with that. Okay, so the other tips are on page 4. So this gets a little bit confusing. On page 4, you'll be asked to complete the waffle pattern, and that is from a single star to a double star. That's your repeat. And you can see the last time you repeat it, the third time, you'll be doing these 2 sections, next row, with color 1. That will be to finish off that little garter ridge stripe, and then you have to set up for the mosaic border. Some people, I think, are missing these 2 rows and assuming that they've already done them. So you're going to have your garter stitch stripe in color 1, which matches the garter stitch stripes previously. So you can see here you've got a nice garter stitch stripe to break the waffle pattern from the color work pattern, and then another garter stitch stripe here to break the pattern into the next waffle stitch pattern. So that is the same for the last color work stripe, but you can see here this is now a second garter stitch stripe. So don't omit that. It's very important because that's what gives you the final stitch count going into the charted section. So that is here. Set up for mosaic border, you're working with color 2, and you're doing 1 more garter stitch stripe. Put a little star there to remind you not to omit it. And then you start in the mosaic border. So you get to turn the page, go into the chart. And if you have not followed any patterns by this designer, her patterns are well tested, well edited, but again, every designer writes in a different format, so it takes a little bit of getting used to how her chart is written. So you'll see here there's a color code of the light and dark squares, and then if you have a color copy, this will be a gold color up here, or a light gray for black and white people like me. So this is just to tell you what color you are going to knit those 2 rows with. That's your color code. And the edge stitches, the knit 3, are always off the chart. They're not included on the chart. So you would start with your knit 3 as your regular garter stitch edging, and then you look at the color, and it's showing color 3 is the blank color. So for this example, we'll just say white. This is not a knit stitch. The first stitch on the chart is an increase, so that is done in the white, and the slip stitches are in the dark. All the white stitches are knit, and all the dark ones are the slip stitches. So refer to your color code here, and the dark outline is to show the repeat across the row, and this brings you to the center stitch. So this is the increase before your center stitch marker, and this little line here is to designate what color your central stitch should be. So for the first and the second row, this is going to be a slip stitch because it's the dark color. Center stitch is also dark. You're going to slip it on the right side and the wrong side accordingly. Then when you're following row 2, you're going to read from left to right. Number 2 is on this side, number 1 is on this side, but you're reading the same row again. The only difference is you're going to be purling the stitches that you knit on the right side, and of course slipping the stitches that you've already slipped in the same order, but with the yarn to your front. Hopefully that makes sense. Once you get in about 4 rows or so, I know it's going to get easier. The other thing to note is up to this point, you have been increasing 4 increases on every right side row. Well, that is going to change now because of the mosaic technique. These increases are every other right side row. So row 1, row 5, row 9. So don't misinterpret that as you're increasing on every right side row. It's every other right side row. Okay, and then here the little dots as you get further up, they are resembling knit stitches on the right side. So for instance, row 23, the gray color are the knit stitches. The light colors are the slip stitches. So we're going to knit all the dark stitches across the row, and then on the wrong side row, we also knit them. So it creates a garter stitch central feature. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. Try not, if you're not at that point, try not to read too far ahead because that will be more confusing. So those are the tips for the Artus Shawl chart. And now pressed flowers. Okay, so pressed flowers has written directions for the first 24 rows, which is easy breezy. And that brings you to page 4. The last row is knitting, and then you begin the pattern repeat. So the pattern repeat is on a chart, but again, you cannot just go by the chart, entirely by the chart, because the slip stitches and the edge stitches are in the written section. So you have to refer back a page to know what to do with the edge stitches before you actually follow the chart. I have a little pink strip here just to remind you that these are very good for reading charts. You can buy these at any sort of store like Staples or dollar store, and they will help you stay on track as you go through the chart. they're see-through, and they're self-sticking. So that is the tip to remember for Pressed Flowers Shawl. And again, once you get through the first section of the chart, you get into a rhythm and you understand how the designer is presenting it. Because if we get stuck on one designer patterns all the time, we have our favorites, then we're not branching out and starting to learn other patterns written by other designers. They all seem to use the same symbol system, but their wording is a little bit different. Okay, so let's get to our trivia question and then back to our knitting. So today's trivia question will be, name one of the other knitters that is shown in the photograph that I posted on the event page last week. So that was a picture of 3 well-known knitters. One of them was Barbara Walker. There are 2 other knitters in the photo. So all you have to do is name one of those knitters. She's very well known. She's revolutionized the knitting world, so you probably already know her name without looking at the photo. So feel free to post your guess in the comments, and we'll leave that open till Sunday, and then we will pick a random winner to get another ballot in the bucket. It's filling up nicely. And then I will be back next Friday, same time, and may even be on to my second chart on Artus to show you the next, the 5th color, because I have 4 colors now. It is going slower now. The rows are much slower because you're slipping a lot of stitches. And if another tip is, make sure your circular needles have a good point on them. If they are the old-fashioned circular needles, you know, the gray aluminum ones, they tend to have a very dull point. You want to have a needle that has a longer tapered point to get through the stitches that are being slipped without splitting the yarn. That's important too. Forgot to mention that. And please share all your tips. I'm sure you're coming up with some tips that haven't been mentioned yet. You can post them in the comments below or post something on the event page. That's open to everyone to use as a forum. So have a great weekend, enjoy the sunshine, and hopefully spring will come sooner than later. I'll see you next week.